us continue with the topic. Now, we have discussed about the definition of risk and also the acceptability risk principles. Now, in this video, we will discuss about risk classification. Right now, this risk is classified as two types. Right, the first basic classification is voluntary risk and involuntary risk. Right now, what is about this voluntary and involuntary risk? This voluntary and involuntary risk is the involvement of people in risky actions knowing that these actions are unsafe. Right now, see here, I'll crux down this point into single line. Voluntary and involuntary risk is involvement of people in risky action knowing that it is unsafe. Right? Now your stunts is nothing but risky actions knowing that it is unsafe. Risky action knowing that it is unsafe. Right now, this is one classification. Now the other classification what we will see is short term and long term risk. Short term and long term risk. Right. The other classification what you see is delayed or immediate risk. Delayed or immediate risk. Now, can you say one example for delayed risk? Now, see here in ecology, we have dealt this. Now, when you work in a cotton industry, upon exposure due to this cotton seeds and cotton waste to the long exposure to the long time in the industry, now you will be affected with a disease called bisonosis. Now that is automatically an example for delayed risk. Immediate risk. Now see here, your UV rays, when you are exposed to UV rays, automatically those are carcinogenic. Right? You might get a risk in the near future, that is also called delayed risk. Right? Immediate risk which happens instantaneously. Right? Now, next classification is personal risk and public risk. Personal risk and public risk. Now, what about this personal risk and public risk? An individual who is given sufficient information will be in a position to decide whether to take part in a risky activity or not. Right? They are more ready to take an voluntary risk than involuntary risk. Am I right or wrong? Right? Now this is the point where you have to consider. Now an individual, when he is given with the right data, right sufficient information, now he will be in a position to take a decision whether to take part or not. Right? Now see here, most of the people will be ready for voluntary risk and nobody will be ready for involuntary risk. Right? And the next important point is risks and benefits to the public are determined than to individuals. Involuntary risk are found here. Right? Now see here, risk and benefits to the public are determined. I mean, you know what's happening there. Right? Risks and benefits to the people are determined means they can be assessed. Right? This is the point. Now For an individual, you cannot assess that easily. Now that is the point given there. Right? Now involuntary risk will be found in these cases. Right? Now the next concept what we will deal is hazards. Now what is hazard? A hazard is something that can cause harm. A hazard is something that can cause harm. Right? Now I will crux down the point here. That can cause harm. Now hazard is associated with a point called degree of danger. Am I right or wrong? Yes. How much you are exposed to the danger. Right? Now examples of these hazards are, now let us speak about the hazards regarding with degree of danger. One is physical hazard. Right? Physical hazard. Now what are these physical hazard? When you slip down on a floor, then see here, your backbone might get affected. Now this is the degree of danger at some extent. Objects in a walkway, unsafe or misused machinery, poor lighting, now, all these are physical hazards. Right? Now I'll crux down 2 points. Right? Unsafe tools. Now I'll write it as unsafe tools. Now see here, slippery floors. Now these are physical hazards. Now next one is chemical hazards. Now see here, chemical hazards is nothing but the compounds that are responsible for the illness of your body or injury to your body. Right? Now these are the two types. Now the next one what we will discuss is disaster. Now see here, already we have discussed this in detail in ecology topic. Right? Your disasters and their management, a topic is there. We have discussed all these things: risk, hazard, disaster. Now this is with perspective with the ethics. The next one is disaster. Now what is this disaster? A seriously disruptive event plus a state of unpreparedness. Right? Now I will crux down this definition also. A seriously disruptive event plus state of unpreparedness. State of unpreparedness is nothing but called disaster. Right? Now see here, a disaster does not take place until a seriously disruptive event coincides with a state of insufficient preparation. Right? Now see here, disaster doesn't take place means, I will come in a reverse manner. Disaster take place only when a disruptive event coincides with a state of unpreparedness. When these two combinedly together happens, a disaster occurs. Now this is the thing. Right? Now any examples for this? Yes. Now see here, your Bhopal gas tragedy is nothing but a disaster. Now this is a disruptive event. What is the disruptive event? Release of methyl isocyanate MIC gas. Bhopal gas tragedy. Right? Release of MIC gas. Now nobody knows what happens when MIC gas is squeezed, right? I mean inhaled. Now this lead to chaos. Now this is the largest industrial disaster happened, and your natural disaster is tsunami. Right? This is a disruptive event, but people are not prepared for this event. Am I right or wrong? Yes. Now the next safety principle, what I mean, the health hazard what you have to look upon is accidents. Now, what is the exact definition of accident? An accident is an unintentional injury or an undesirable incident or an unplanned event that could have been prevented. Right now, that's the crux point. Right now, see here, an accident is an unintentional, undesirable, right, unplanned event, now which can be prevented. Now focus on this, right? These definitions are very important. Which can be prevented. Now, this is the exact definition of accident. Now these accidents are classified into three types. One is procedural, one is engineered, and the third one is systematic. Now the first one is procedural. Let us discuss about this in detail. What is this procedural? Now these procedural accidents are most commonly happened accidents, often caused by bad choice or failure to follow regulations or established procedures. Right? Your road accidents, this mostly happens due to not following the regulations and not following the established procedures. Now these procedural accidents are caused by failure to follow regulations, sometimes your procedures. Now these can be prevented when you follow the regulations and procedures, right? Now the second type of accident classification is engineered accident. Engineered accident, right? Now what is this type of? Caused by flaws in design of a product or a system, and it can be caused by failure of materials, devices not functioning, right? Now see here, this type of accidents occur due to flaw in a design of a product or a system, failure of materials, and failure in functioning of a system. Failure in functioning of a system. Right? Now this is called engineered accidents. Now the third type of accident is systematic accidents. Right? Now what is this systematic accidents? Now see, these systematic accidents are harder to understand and they are complex in controlling. Right? Now this happens due to complex technologies and systems caused by many systems working in coordination. If one fails, it automatically leads to accumulated problems. Am I right or wrong? Now see here, I'll write on this in one point. Caused by many systems in coordination. Right? Now this is the point, right? Now this is nothing but systematic accidents. Now let us go into the next concept, responsibility of engineers. Now this is the main code of ethics in engineering, right? Safety, health, right? These are the fundamental values that you have to discuss. Public welfare. Now what are the responsibilities of the engineers in order to ensure the safety? Responsibility of engineers in order to ensure safety. Right? Now, what is the first one? Safety should be an integral part of every engineering design and industry. Right? Safety should be an integral part of every engineering profession and industry design. No duty of engineer is more important than his or her safety and well-being of public. General point. Now, risk is the key element in any engineering design. Now, this risk has to be minimized to the maximum possible extent. Now, this risk has to be minimized to the greater extent. Now, we have seen the responsibility of engineers. Now, how to ensure this safety? Right? How to ensure this safety? How you can say that you are safe? The first point is the engineering design must comply with the applicable laws. Right? Your design must be perfect and it must be in compliance. Right? Now, design must meet the standards and the accepted engineering standards, right? Engineering practice. It must meet these standards. Now, any design alternatives that are potentially safer must be explored. Now, see here, new arenas have to be explored. And this is the point. Now, risk benefit analysis should be done. Now, this is very important, right? Risk benefit analysis. Now, we will discuss this in detail. Risk benefit analysis has to be taken out and to determine whether the project has to be proceeded or stopped. Now, the engineer must be aware of potential product misuses by the users, right, and designs, and they have to be there in order to misuse of these products. Right? Now, once the product is designed, this product has to be tested before it has to be in fully fledged used. Right? Your quality control has to happen there. This is what we have discussed here. Right? Now, this is what you have to ensure a safety. Right? Now, as I said earlier, we will discuss this risk benefit analysis in detail. Now, what is this risk benefit analysis? To ensure safety, a company has to do risk benefit analysis regarding the design, product, and also the industrial surroundings in order to ensure the safety of a individual. Now, what is this risk benefit analysis? Now, it is concerned with the advisability in order to take a project or not. In order to undertake a project or not. This is an advice. Right? Now, it helps in deciding which design you have greater advantages. Right? Decision of designs. Second point. Now, risk benefit analysis is done for assessment of hazards associated. Right? It is done for assessment of or assessing the hazards associated. Now, focus on these points more. Now, the next one, why you have to do this risk benefit analysis? It involves identifying the associated hazards and estimating the consequences. Right? Already you have discussed in detail, right? Consequences in detail. The probability of the consequences. Right? Now I'll write like this: probability, consequence, consequences, probability. Right? Now, in this risk benefit analysis, three factors are involved. The first one is hazard identification. Now I'll write down the things. The three factors what you have to consider is hazard identification. And the next one what you have to consider is consequence analysis. Consequence analysis, right? And likelihood of the events, right? Or otherwise you can write it as probability estimation, right? Now these are the three factors that you have to consider. Probability estimation. Done. Now these are the factors that you have to consider. Now in risk benefit analysis, the risk and benefits of a product are allotted to money amounts, and most beneficial ratio between risk and benefits are calculated, right? Now see here, in this analysis you are calculated based upon the money amounts, and you will choose a beneficial ratio between risk and benefits, and then you move on to the project, right? Now the next very important fundamental value in this code of ethics is public health. Let us discuss about this. Public health. Now this public health is affected by many factors, likewise your pollution, toxic elements, flawed design. So engineers should focus on following the quality standards, right? They have to follow the quality standards. Now what about this quality? Now see here, one pure example, level of radiation of your mobile phone, level of radiation of your mobile, right? Now this is the one that you have to take care of examples. Now minimize the emissions from the industrial process, minimize the emissions from the industrial process, right? Now minimize the usage of toxic materials, minimize the usage of toxic materials, right? And see here, you have to adhere to the pollution standards for air, water, noise, etc. We have discussed in detail regarding this in environmental pollution, right? And see here, regarding this public health, it must be an objective, and you have to be very truthful to your profession, right? And the statements and the testimonies that you produce, right? And you have to report to the authorities regarding the risk. This is the thing that you have to do for the public health, generalized things, right? Now the next fundamental value in the code of ethics for engineering profession is public welfare, last one. Now what is this public welfare? If the standards of safety and health are met, now automatically it will benefit to the public welfare, right? Now see here, if the safety and standards are met, if the safety and standards are met, I mean standards regarding your public health are met automatically, that leads to the public welfare. Am I right or wrong? Now apart from this two, public health and safety standards, welfare includes, now this public welfare will be included what? Identify, define and address ethical, economical, legal, cultural and environmental issues related to work projects. Now you have to focus on cultural, legal, environmental issues. Right now, you have to avoid any illegal activities, right? And again, see here, issuance of permits is a very important, right? Issue of permits is very important in this public welfare. Now, ensuring quality in services and products, quality in service and products, right? Now observe here how to ensure this quality in service and products. Now you have to install a quality control system, and this is a system of maintaining standards in the manufacturing products by testing a sample output against the specification. Now this is nothing but you speak about what, get the things, Six Sigma approaches, all the things are regarding to quality standards, right? Out of 1 million there must be no one defective product, right? Now liability means that the manufacturer is concerned is liable for any harm that results to users by using defective products. Now manufacturer must be liable for that, right? The quality in public services, likewise your Indian engineering service, is expressed through citizens charter. Now, this is very important, right? Your public service quality is expressed in the form of citizens charter, right? Now basically we speak about your Indian engineering service, right? Now see here, these are the conditions that you have to focus on public welfare, right? Now what is citizens charter? You said that all the quality norms, all the quality standards that you are providing for the public must be given in a form of note called citizen charter. Now that itself says this citizen charter is a document. Now what this document represents? Now it represents the commitment of organizations towards its citizens. Now this document shows you or represents the commitment of organization towards citizens. Right now about what this, now what commitment does this citizen charter shows, right? What commitment does this citizen charter shows? Now observe here, this citizen charter will give you the commitment regarding standard of services, information, right? And about the grievance redressal, right? Grievance redressal, all this comes under the information given in citizen charter. Now this citizen charter is a tool facilitating the delivery of services to citizens with specific standards, specific quality and time frame, right? Now this is the thing. Now a good citizen charter should have this following components. Now see here, a good citizen charter must have vision and mission statements, first and foremost important one, right? Now the details of the business happening in the organization must be given the citizen charter. Now details of citizens and clients must be given there. Now you have to give the statement of services including the standards, quality time frame, all the things in the citizen charter. Now you have to give the details regarding grievance redressal, how many grievances happened and how many things you have concern, I mean you have looked upon, right? Now you have to give the expectations of citizens in the citizen charter, what people are expecting, right? And also this citizen charter must commit to give the statement regarding compensation in the event of failure of service delivery. Now see here, this is very important. Once it was asked in your examination, focus on this, right? Thank you.